The great hall of the Vereen Council glowed like a living sun. Silver pillars rose high into the mist, covered with symbols that shifted like water. Thousands of alien delegates sat in silence as the Emperor of Vereen, Lord Zareth, stepped forward. His voice echoed across the chamber like thunder through glass. "Today," he said, "we honor the human who saved our world." Every eye turned toward the center, where a single man stood, Captain Ethan Cole. His black uniform was torn at the shoulder, his left arm wrapped in bandages. He stood tall but uneasy, surrounded by faces of beings from 100 stars. The war had ended only weeks ago, but the scars still burned deep. Ethan had led a rescue mission through the burning skies of Vereen, where plasma storms and alien drones filled the air. His small ship, Resolute, had been shot down, yet he had gone on foot through fire and ruin to save thousands. The Vereen called him the Human Shield. To them, he was a hero beyond all measure, but to Ethan, he was just a soldier who did what he had to. Lord Zareth raised his long golden staff. The hall fell into perfect silence. "My people owe you a debt that can never be repaid," the Emperor said, "but I will try." He turned toward the crystal throne where his daughter sat. Princess Ilara rose, her silver-blue skin glowing softly in the golden light. She was beautiful, even by alien standards, her eyes like two galaxies reflecting light from distant suns. She looked nervous, almost afraid. The Emperor spoke again. "Captain Ethan Cole, I offer you the highest honor of our empire. I offer you my daughter's hand in bond, a union between human and Vereen. A new chapter for our two worlds." Gasps filled the air. Some delegates whispered in disbelief. Others stared at Ethan like he had just been chosen by the gods. A human, marrying into the royal line? It was unthinkable. Ethan stood frozen. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. He looked at the Emperor, then at the princess. Her gaze met his, calm, kind, searching. He took a slow breath. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I'm honored beyond words. But I can't accept." The hall went silent again. Even the air seemed to stop moving. The Emperor blinked. "You refuse?" Ethan nodded once. "Yes, sir." The whispers turned into shocked murmurs. Some alien delegates hissed in anger. Others watched with wide eyes. Ilara's face changed, and not with anger, but with confusion. Lord Zareth stepped closer, his golden armor glinting. "Do you know what you are saying, human? No being has ever turned down the royal bond of Vereen." "I know," Ethan said softly. His voice did not shake. "But I can't do it. Why?" the Emperor asked, his voice sharp as steel. "Do you find my daughter unworthy?" Ethan's eyes darkened. "No, Your Majesty. She's more than worthy. She's perfect." He paused, searching for the right words. "But she deserves better." The room fell dead silent. Even the hum of the hall's great engine seemed to fade away. "She deserves someone who isn't broken," Ethan continued. "Someone who isn't haunted by what he's done." He looked down at his hand, the bandaged one. Beneath the cloth, faint blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. He clenched it tightly, hiding the glow. "I've done things in the war I can't forget. I carry things inside me, things I don't even understand." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You speak in riddles." Ethan looked up, meeting his gaze. "I speak the truth. I saved lives, yes, but I also lost my crew, every single one of them. And something from that battle stayed with me." For a long moment, no one spoke. The council members exchanged nervous glances. Ilara took a step forward, her voice trembling. "Captain, what do you mean? What stayed with you?" Ethan shook his head. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that your world is safe now. That's enough for me." He turned to leave, but two guards moved to block his path. The Emperor raised his hand to stop them. "Let him go," he said, though his tone carried both confusion and respect. As Ethan walked down the glowing corridor out of the council hall, whispers followed him like shadows. Why would he refuse? Does he not understand the honor? What secret does he hide? Far above the hall, through crystal windows, the stars burned cold and distant. Ilara watched him disappear into the light, her heart filled with questions she could not name. Lord Zareth stood beside her, his expression unreadable. "He refused my daughter," he said quietly. "No creature in this galaxy has ever done that." Ilara looked down, her voice soft. "Then perhaps this human is not like other creatures." And deep in the shadows of the corridor, Ethan touched the bandage on his arm. The faint blue light glowed stronger, alive, pulsing. He whispered under his breath, almost to himself. "If they knew what I am." They'd never call me a hero. The great hall behind him shone bright, but his path ahead faded into darkness, a darkness that waited, patient and hungry. The night skies of Virene shimmered like liquid glass. Beyond the royal towers, 2 moons hung over the horizon, watching in silence. Deep inside the guest quarters of the palace, Captain Ethan Cole sat alone by the window. His reflection stared back, tired eyes, unshaven face, and that bandaged arm still faintly glowing beneath the cloth. He had refused the Emperor's offer only hours ago. The news had already spread through the capital like wildfire. Across the floating cities, people whispered the same question. Why would the human reject the Emperor's daughter? Some called him foolish, others called him brave, but none of them knew the truth. Ethan leaned his forehead against the cold glass. The glow from his arm pulsed again, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat that wasn't his. He pressed his hand against it, whispering, "Not now. Please, not now." The light dimmed, almost as if it obeyed. The sound of footsteps broke the silence. The door opened and a familiar voice spoke softly. "You don't sleep much, do you, Captain?" He turned. Princess Ilara stood there, wearing a long silver cloak. Her glowing eyes reflected the moonlight. She looked both regal and curious, like someone who carried 1,000 questions but was afraid to ask them. "A princess visiting a soldier's room?" Ethan said, forcing a half-smile. "That's not very royal." She smiled faintly. "Neither is refusing the Emperor's offer." Ethan's smile faded. He turned back to the window. "I didn't mean to insult your father. Or you." "I know," she said quietly, "but the council doesn't. Some of them see it as an act of defiance. My father is defending you, but even he has doubts." Ethan nodded. "I figured that." Ilara stepped closer. "Then tell me the truth. Why did you refuse? You said I deserve better, and better than what?" For a long time he said nothing. The silence between them grew heavy. Then slowly he unwrapped the bandage from his arm. The blue light spilled out, bright and alive, crawling under his skin like veins of fire. Ilara gasped. "By the stars." "What is that?" "Something I brought back from the war," Ethan said. "Something that shouldn't exist." He flexed his hand. The glow shifted, forming strange symbols that flickered for a second, then vanished. "During the last battle, we were ambushed. My team and I found an enemy lab, hidden inside the ruins of a crashed mothership. They were experimenting on living metal, a kind of nanotech weapon. We destroyed the lab, but one of the cores exploded near me." He paused, his voice quiet. "Everyone else died. I survived. But this," he pointed to the light, "got inside me." Ilara stared at him, her voice trembling. "It's inside your blood?" "Yes, it's a part of me now. It heals me faster than normal, makes me stronger. But it's not natural. I can feel it, moving, learning. Every day it becomes a little less me and a little more. Something else." Her expression softened. "Is that why you refused?" "Because of this?" Ethan nodded. "If it's contagious, if it spreads, I could hurt you." "I could hurt everyone," she shook her head. "You saved millions, Captain. You risked your life for us. Don't you think you deserve to live?" He laughed quietly without humor. "Deserve? You don't know what I've done to survive. I've given orders that got good people killed. I've watched my friends die because I hesitated. And now I carry this thing, this alien poison, inside me. No, Princess, I don't deserve your kindness. Or your world." Ilara stepped closer, her voice firm. "You're wrong. You may carry darkness, but you still fight for the light. That's what makes you human." Ethan looked at her. Really looked at her. There was no fear in her eyes. Only understanding. For the first time in years, he felt something he thought he had lost. Warmth. But before he could reply, the room shook. A deep hum filled the air, followed by the sharp hiss of security drones outside. Red lights flashed across the palace walls. Ilara turned toward the door. "What's happening?" Ethan grabbed his gear. "They found me." The door burst open. A group of armored guards stormed in, weapons drawn. "Captain Ethan Cole, you are under arrest by order of the Virene High Council." "Arrest?" Ilara shouted. "On whose command?" The lead officer hesitated. "Counselor Drex has issued a motion of containment. The human carries an unstable weapon. He is a danger to all." Ethan raised his hand slowly. The light in his arm pulsed brighter. "They're not wrong," he said. But Ilara stepped in front of him, her cloak glowing like silver fire. "You will not touch him," she commanded. The guards froze, torn between loyalty and fear. In that moment, Ethan's arm flared with energy. The blue light formed a shield around both of them, shimmering like a living wave. The guards' weapons fired, but the blasts bent away, absorbed into the glow. When the light faded, the soldiers were unconscious and Ethan was breathing hard. His arm smoked faintly, the skin burned but healing fast. Ilara stared at him, stunned. "You could have killed them." "I didn't want to," he said, his voice low. "But next time, I might not have a choice." Outside, alarms blared through the night. The council now saw Ethan as a threat, not a hero. And deep within his arm, the nanotech whispered like a living storm. "They will come for you, Ethan Cole, and when they do, you will become what you fear." Ilara looked at him, her eyes filled with both fear and determination. "Then we'll face them together." Ethan wanted to argue, to tell her to stay away, but something in her voice silenced him. For the first time, he felt less alone. Far above them, the two moons of Virene drifted apart, and a shadow moved across the stars, the first sign that a far greater danger was waking. The sky over Virene burned with the colors of dawn, gold, violet, and storm gray. But inside the Emperor's palace there was no peace. Soldiers filled the corridors, scanning every corner with weapons drawn. The name Ethan Cole echoed through their comms like a warning. Hidden deep beneath the palace in an old tunnel once used during the war, Ethan and Princess Ilara moved through the shadows. Dust fell from the ceiling as the hum of search drones passed above. Ethan's injured arm still glowed faintly, wrapped again in cloth. Every pulse of light reminded him that time was running out. Ilara's breathing was steady, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "They'll find us soon," she whispered. "My father must think you've gone mad." "Maybe I have," Ethan muttered. "But I'm not the one who sent soldiers after a man who just saved his world." She stopped and turned to face him. "You don't understand. The council acts faster than the Emperor. If they voted to detain you, he can't overrule them without proof." "Proof of what?" "That you're not a weapon." Ethan's laugh was short and hollow. That might be the hardest thing to prove in this galaxy. They reached a hidden chamber, an ancient data vault built before the Empire's rise. The walls were lined with glowing runes shifting like living script. Ilara pressed her hand to one of the panels. It opened with a hiss, revealing a dark console covered in alien glyphs. "I used to come here when I was young," she said. "I learned that my father keeps sealed records here. Reports about the war." "And the experiments," Ethan frowned. "Experiments?" Ilara nodded. The Virene once worked on hybrid life, combining alien and human DNA. It was supposed to create soldiers who could survive any environment. But it was banned years ago. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. Then it wasn't banned soon enough. He placed his hand on the console. The blue light in his arm pulsed and the symbols on the screen changed instantly, as if recognizing him. Files unlocked one by one. Holograms filled the room, showing scientists in white armor. Test chambers filled with strange blue mist and bodies, both human and alien, suspended in tubes. Ilara covered her mouth in shock. "By the stars! This was done by my people?" Ethan stared at one of the screens, his jaw tight. "That's the lab I found. That's where my team died." He tapped the console, bringing up a new file. The name at the top made him freeze. "Project Horizon, Human Subject 01, Captain Ethan Cole." The words hit him like a punch. His chest felt hollow. "They were watching me," he whispered. "Even before the battle, they used me." Ilara looked at him, her voice trembling. "No, that can't be true. You weren't even part of our alliance then." "Exactly, which means someone in your council worked with the enemy." He scrolled through more files, test results, blood scans, notes, all written in Virene code. They wanted to create a perfect soldier. The infection wasn't an accident. It was a test. The room trembled as a low alarm blared. The console flickered red. Ilara's face turned pale. "They know we accessed this place." Ethan looked at her. "We need to leave. Now." They ran through the tunnels as security drones flooded the lower levels. The blue glow from Ethan's arm illuminated the path like a beacon. They reached an exit hatch leading to the surface, but a group of council guards waited outside, their weapons aimed. A familiar voice called out, cold and calm. "Captain Cole, Princess Ilara, you've gone too far." Counselor Drek stepped forward, tall, gray-skinned, with mechanical eyes that glowed red. His expression carried no emotion. You accessed restricted archives. That is treason. Ilara stood in front of Ethan. You planted those experiments, didn't you? You're the one behind the Horizon Project. Drex smiled faintly. You're your father's daughter. Too curious for your own good. Yes, Princess. The human was chosen long before he ever set foot on this planet. His survival was no accident. We wanted to see if his kind could merge with our technology, and it worked. Better than expected. Ethan's blood ran cold. So I was your experiment all along. Not mine, Drex said. Ours, the next phase of evolution. Before Ethan could reply, Drex raised his hand. The guards fired. Bolts of plasma filled the air. Ethan reacted instantly. His arm flared blue and the energy shield burst from his body like a living wave. The blasts scattered harmlessly. But this time something changed. The energy didn't fade. It grew. The shield twisted into tendrils of light, moving like they had a mind of their own. The guards screamed as the glow wrapped around their weapons, melting metal like wax. Ethan fell to his knees, fighting to control it. Stop! Ilara shouted. She grabbed his arm, her touch trembling but firm. Ethan, you're still in control. Don't let it win. Her voice cut through the chaos. The light hesitated, then slowly faded, leaving the floor scorched and smoking. Ethan's chest heaved, sweat running down his face. Drex watched, intrigued. Fascinating. You can resist the programming. No other subject could. He turned to leave, his words echoing in the tunnel. But the council won't stop until they have you. They think you're a threat. I think you're a miracle. As Drex disappeared into the shadows, Ilara knelt beside Ethan. His arm still glowed softly, the veins of light calmer now. They made you this way, she said quietly, but we'll find a way to undo it. I promise. Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with a mix of pain and resolve. No, Princess. We need to do more than undo it. We need to find out how deep this goes, before they turn someone else into a monster like me. Above them, thunder rolled across the sky, and the first drops of acid rain began to fall. The war that everyone thought was over had just been reborn, not in space, but in the heart of one human who refused to be controlled. The rain over the Vereen capital fell like liquid glass, glowing faintly blue as it splashed across the steel streets. From the palace balcony, the world below looked peaceful, but Ethan Cole knew better. Beneath that beauty hid a storm of secrets, and now, he and Princess Ilara were trapped inside it. They had escaped the tunnels hours ago and found refuge in an abandoned sky dock above the city. Rusted ships floated in silence, their lights long dead. Ilara paced near a flickering console, her silver cloak wet with rain. Ethan sat nearby, sharpening a broken blade, the glow from his arm flickering like a dying star. They called you a hero, Ilara said quietly. Now they call you a weapon. Ethan didn't look up. The galaxy loves heroes, until it realizes heroes bleed like everyone else. She frowned. Counselor Drex is spreading lies. He claims you attacked the guards and tried to seize classified data. I didn't have to try, Ethan said bitterly. The data was mine. Ilara turned toward him, her eyes full of fire. Then we expose him. We tell my father the truth about Project Horizon. Ethan shook his head. You saw his council. Half of them already want me dead. The other half will pretend to believe him because it's easier than facing what they did. But my father is surrounded by traitors. Ethan finished softly. He might not even know who to trust anymore. For a moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the sound of rain hitting metal. Then Ilara stepped closer, her voice steady. Then we find proof. Real proof. Ethan looked up, meeting her gaze. And where do we start? Ilara activated the console. A hologram flickered to life, showing the city's orbital network, a web of satellites and data relays surrounding the planet. She pointed to one marked in red. There, the central data spire. Every council transmission passes through it. If Drex sent orders to frame you, it'll be there. Ethan smirked faintly, breaking into a government tower on an alien world. I almost missed missions like this. Ilara gave a small, nervous laugh. Let's hope your human luck holds. That night, they flew a stolen skimmer through the storm. Lightning flashed across the dark sky, reflecting off the towers below. The data spire rose ahead, a colossal structure of black crystal and white light stretching miles into the clouds. Drones circled its base like fireflies guarding a hive. Ethan adjusted the controls. If we're caught, they'll call this treason. Ilara smiled faintly. Then let's make sure we don't get caught. They landed on a maintenance platform near the upper level. Wind roared around them, pulling at their cloaks. Ethan's eyes scanned the horizon. Every movement, every sound. His soldier's instincts never slept. Inside the spire, glowing corridors twisted like veins of light. The air hummed with power. They moved quickly, avoiding patrols until they reached the data core, a circular chamber filled with floating panels of light. Ilara placed her hand on a console. I'll bypass the security layers. You keep watch. Ethan nodded and turned toward the door. His arm began to pulse again, faster this time. He clenched his fist, trying to calm it, but the nanotech was restless. It felt something. Almost there, Ilara whispered. Just a few more seconds, the door slid open behind them. Ethan spun, weapon ready, but it wasn't a guard. It was a familiar figure in royal armor. Princess Ilara, said a deep, broken voice. Step away from the console. Ethan froze. Emperor Zareth? The Emperor stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his armor. His expression was unreadable. Behind him, 2 elite guards aimed their rifles at Ethan. Ilara's voice shook. Father, you're here. You have to listen. Drex is, I know, Zareth said quietly. I've known for some time. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Then why haven't you stopped him? Zareth stepped closer. Because the Council no longer answers to me. Drex controls the inner ring, the trade fleets, the armies, the information. I can't move against him without proof. Ilara looked at him in disbelief. Then help us. This Council has everything. We can expose him. Zareth's gaze softened as he looked at her. I wish it were that simple. Before Ethan could react, the Emperor gave a subtle signal. One of the guards pressed a switch on his wristband. The console behind Ilara flickered, then exploded in a burst of white energy. Ilara was thrown backward. Ethan caught her just in time, shielding her from the blast. The air filled with smoke and the sharp scent of burnt metal. Zareth's voice broke the silence. You were right, Captain. The Council is corrupt, but you are too dangerous to be free. If Drex doesn't destroy you, someone else will. Ethan rose slowly, fury burning behind his calm expression. So you betray me too? The Emperor's eyes glimmered with regret. I do what I must to protect my people. By sacrificing the only man who saved them? Zareth didn't answer. He turned away, signaling his guards. Take them. Before the soldiers could move, Ethan's arm flared again. The blue light erupted across the chamber, forming a barrier of energy. The blast knocked the guards back, shattering their weapons. Ethan stood protectively in front of Ilara, his voice like steel. No one's taking her, he said. Zareth stared at him, part awe, part sorrow. You've become something even you don't understand. Maybe, Ethan said. But I still know the difference between right and wrong. He grabbed Ilara's hand and together they ran toward the emergency shaft. Behind them, the Emperor didn't give chase. He simply watched, torn between duty and something deeper. When they reached the skimmer and took off, the city below was already waking to chaos. Holographic alerts filled the air. Human fugitive escapes royal custody. Wanted for treason. Ilara looked at Ethan, her voice trembling. My father betrayed us. Ethan stared out at the storm. No, he's just another prisoner of the Council. The blue light from his arm glowed against the dark sky as he whispered, But I'm done running. It's time they learn what they created. Above them, the lightning flared like the opening of an eye, watching, waiting, as the real war began. The stars above Vereen glimmered cold and distant as Ethan's stolen skimmer shot through the upper atmosphere. The world below shrank into a swirl of glowing clouds, and ahead, the darkness of space waited like an open mouth. Ilara sat beside him in silence, her hands trembling on her lap. Neither spoke for a long time. The only sound was the low hum of the ship and the pulse of blue light from Ethan's arm, glowing brighter every minute. Finally, Ilara broke the silence. Where are we going? Ethan's eyes stayed fixed on the navigation screen. Somewhere the Council can't reach us. I still have a friend in orbit, someone who owes me a favor. Ilara looked at him curiously. A human? Not exactly. Ethan tapped a sequence into the console. A hidden beacon lit up and a signal flashed across the stars. You'll see soon. Minutes later, a shape appeared ahead, a massive derelict station floating in the shadow of Vereen's second moon. It looked abandoned, covered in scars from an old war. Faded symbols lined its hull, half human, half alien. Ilara frowned. What is this place? Outpost 9, Ethan replied. Built during the first Vereen-human conflict. It was shut down when the alliance ended, but some of us kept it alive. As they docked, the ship's hatch opened with a long hiss. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Lights flickered weakly along the corridor. A tall figure stepped out of the shadows, a woman in worn pilot armor, her hair streaked silver, her left eye glowing cybernetic blue. Captain Cole, she said with a smirk. Didn't think I'd ever see your sorry face again. Ethan grinned faintly. Good to see you too, Rhea. Rhea glanced at Ilara, her eyebrow raising. You brought a royal? That's a new kind of trouble. Ilara straightened her cloak. I'm not here as royalty. I'm here because the council is destroying everything. Rhea laughed softly. Then you're in the right company. She motioned for them to follow. Come on. You'll want to see what we've been digging up. Inside the station's command room, holograms covered the walls and stolen data streams. Intercepted council messages and secret files bearing Drex's insignia. Rhea tapped a few controls and the images merged into one large projection, a rotating 3D model of a strange glowing structure. Ilara leaned closer.
What is that?
The Nexus Core, Rhea said. It's the heart of the Vereen network. Controls communication, security, even the orbital defenses. Drex has been using it to track you both since the night you escaped. Ethan frowned. You hacked into that? Barely, Rhea admitted. But I found something worse. Drex isn't just using it to control information. He's using it to test something. Project Horizon 2.0. Ilara's breath caught. You mean, Rhea nodded grimly. New subjects. Hundreds of them. Not just humans. Vereen soldiers too. Ethan's jaw tightened. He's building hybrids. Rhea brought up another image. A massive lab hidden inside a hollow moon near the outer rim. That's where the experiments are happening. He's turning your infection into a weapon. Ethan looked down at his glowing arm. The light pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat like it was listening. Then he's already won. Whatever this thing is, it's learning faster than I can control it. Ilara stepped closer. You're not a weapon, Ethan. You proved that when you saved those guards instead of killing them. Rhea crossed her arms. She's right. But you don't have long. The energy patterns in your body are changing. It's syncing with something bigger. Maybe the core itself. Ethan's voice hardened. Then I'll end it, all of it. Drex, the core, Horizon, everything. Rhea looked at him, concern flickering in her cybernetic eye. You'll die if you do that. Maybe, he said. But at least it ends with me. Ilara's voice broke. No, you don't get to decide that alone. You didn't start this, Ethan, they did. Before he could answer, alarms blared through the station. Red lights flashed across the walls. Rhea checked the console. Her face went pale. We've been traced. The council found us. Ethan moved instantly. Locked down the station. Get Ilara to the escape pods. Rhea shook her head. Too late. They're already inside. The walls shook as explosions tore through the outer hull. Dozens of council drones swarmed in, firing blue plasma bolts. Ethan threw himself in front of Ilara, his arm flaring with light. The energy shield burst out again, blocking the attacks. Rhea grabbed her rifle and fired back, shouting over the chaos. They want you alive, Cole. That's why they're not aiming to kill. Noted. Ethan grunted, hurling a blast of energy that sent 3 drones crashing into the walls. But as the fight went on, something inside him changed. The light in his veins grew brighter, too bright. It crawled up his neck across his face, forming glowing patterns under his skin. Ethan, Ilara shouted. You're losing control. He fell to one knee, gripping his head. A cold voice echoed in his mind. Mechanical, ancient, familiar. We are awake, Ethan Cole. You are no longer the host. You are the link. He gasped, the words burning inside his skull. No, not again. Rhea fired another burst, covering him. What's happening to him? Ilara knelt beside Ethan, her hand on his chest. The infection's connecting to something. The Nexus Core, maybe even Drex himself. Ethan looked up, his eyes glowing blue now, brighter than ever.
He's inside my head, he whispered.
Drex's network. It's using me to access the core. The station trembled again as more drones forced their way in. Rhea shouted, We need to cut the signal. Ethan's voice was low, almost inhuman. No, I can do it. I can find him through the link. Ilara's grip tightened. You'll burn yourself alive. Ethan met her eyes. For a moment, his human warmth returned. Then I'll take the fire with me. He slammed his hand onto the nearest console. Light exploded through the room, flooding every system. The drones froze mid-air, their eyes going dark. Then as quickly as it began, the light vanished, leaving silence. Smoke filled the air. Ethan collapsed. The glow in his arm dimmed, flickering weakly. Ilara caught him before he hit the floor. Ethan, stay with me! His voice was barely a whisper. I found him, Drex. He's not just in the council. He's in the core. He is the core. Ilara's eyes widened. Then he's not just controlling the system. He's becoming it. Ethan's hand tightened weakly around hers. Then we end him there. Outside, through the shattered window, the stars shifted, and far away, deep within the hollow moon, a new light awakened. It pulsed like a heartbeat, vast and cold. The enemy wasn't out there anymore. It was inside the machine, and inside Ethan. The silence that followed the battle was haunting. Outpost 9 drifted in orbit like a wounded beast, its hull cracked and bleeding light into the cold void. Inside, the lights flickered weakly as smoke curled through broken corridors. Ilara knelt beside Ethan's body, her hands trembling. His arm, once bright with blue energy, now glowed dimly, fading in and out like the last pulse of a dying star. Stay with me, Ethan, she whispered, her voice breaking. Please. He stirred, eyes opening slowly. The blue in them shimmered faintly before fading back to gray. Still, here, he murmured, forcing a weak smile. Did we make it? Rhea limped over, clutching her side where shrapnel had torn through her armor. Barely, but the drones are down. For now. Ilara brushed a strand of hair from Ethan's face. You connected to the core, didn't you? Ethan nodded weakly. Drex isn't just controlling it anymore. He merged with it. The entire network runs through him now. Rhea frowned. So he's not a man anymore? No, Ethan said quietly. He's something worse. Ilara's eyes darkened. Then we destroy the core. Rhea shook her head. You can't just blow up something like that. The Nexus core powers half the Empire. If it collapses, billions could die. Ethan leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Then we cut him out, like a tumor. Rhea snorted. And how do you do that, genius? Ethan raised his glowing arm, flexing his fingers. He built the link through me. That means I can break it from the inside. Ilara's voice softened. You mean you'll have to go inside the core? He nodded. And if I do, I might not come back. Her eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. Rhea crossed her arms. There's an old smuggler route to the moon where Drex's lab is. The entrance is heavily guarded, but we can sneak through the mining tunnels. Ethan forced himself to stand. Then that's where we go. Hours later, the small ship cut through the void toward the hollow moon, a cold metallic sphere surrounded by debris. Lightning storms danced across its surface, powered by the Nexus energy pulsing deep within. The core's light was so bright it could be seen from orbit, beating like a heart beneath the crust. Rhea piloted the ship while Ethan and Ilara prepared in silence. Ethan checked his sidearm, though he doubted bullets would help against what awaited. Ilara attached a neural crystal to his wrist. What's that? He asked. A stabilizer, she said softly. It might help you stay connected to yourself when you enter the core's system. He smiled faintly. You sound like my old engineer. She met his eyes. Then listen to me like you listened to her. He chuckled, a soft, tired sound. She used to yell more. Their ship descended into the tunnels. The deeper they went, the more the walls shimmered with strange blue veins, energy flowing like blood through the rock. The hum grew louder, vibrating through their bones. When they reached the central chamber, they stopped. Before them stood the Nexus core, a massive sphere of living light rotating slowly within a web of dark cables. Faces flickered within it, thousands of ghostly images trapped in its glow. Human, Virine, machines, all connected. Ilara stepped back, horrified.
He's absorbed them.
All the test subjects. Rhea cursed under her breath. This isn't a network. It's a graveyard. A voice echoed through the chamber, deep, mechanical, familiar. Welcome home, Captain Cole. Ethan froze. The voice was inside his head, vibrating through every nerve. You were our first success. You opened the path between flesh and machine. You are the key to perfection. Ethan clenched his fists. I'm not your creation. You are mine, the voice thundered. The core pulsed violently. Energy arcs filled the air, striking the floor around them. Rhea shouted over the noise. "Ethan, we can't stay here. The radiation's spiking." But Ethan took a step forward. "I have to end this." He looked back at Ilara. "If I lose control, you won't," she said fiercely, grabbing his hand. "Because I'll be here." For a brief second, the human and alien stood hand in hand before the blazing heart of the galaxy's greatest secret. Then Ethan stepped forward into the light. Inside the core, everything changed. He floated in a sea of glowing data streams surrounded by shifting images, memories, emotions, voices of the dead. His own reflection appeared before him, but its eyes glowed pure blue. "Do you see, Ethan? You were never meant to destroy us. You are us." Ethan felt the nanotech surge inside him, pushing against his mind. His heart pounded. "No, I'm more than your experiment." "You cannot fight evolution," Ethan screamed as the light around him turned blinding white. He saw flashes, his team dying, his ship crashing, his hands glowing for the first time. Then Ilara's face, and the only calm in the chaos. He reached toward it, and something inside him snapped. The light in his body exploded outward, not in rage, but in will. "I'm not your weapon," he roared. "I'm your end." The core trembled. Cracks of light split its surface as the blue glow turned white. Outside, alarms blared across the moon. Rhea dragged Ilara back as energy erupted through the tunnels. "Ethan!" Ilara screamed. "Come back." A blinding shockwave tore through the lab, and then silence. When the light finally faded, Ilara opened her eyes. The core was gone. The cables hung limp and black. The walls were scorched. And there, in the center, lay Ethan, motionless, his body faintly glowing white instead of blue. She ran to him, tears spilling down her cheeks. His eyes fluttered open, soft and human again. "It's over," he whispered. She smiled through her tears. "You did it." Rhea stepped forward, her voice quiet. "You didn't just destroy the core. You merged with it. You severed Drex, but the system, it's alive again, and it's connected to you now." Ethan's eyes drifted toward the faint light in the ceiling and the stars beyond the metal. "Then maybe I can finally make it right." Ilara touched his face gently. "You already have." Outside, the hollow moon shimmered once more before falling silent. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most powerful network was free, guided not by a machine, but by the soul of a human who refused to give in. The hollow moon hung silent in space, broken, glowing faintly from deep within like the ember of a dying fire. Inside its scorched heart, the echoes of battle had faded. The hum of the Nexus core was gone. Only the slow rhythm of Ethan Cole's breathing filled the ruins. He sat against a shattered wall, his arm no longer blue but softly white, calm, pure, and strangely human again. The nanotech that once screamed inside him now pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and quiet. Ilara sat beside him, her cloak torn and her face streaked with ash. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. Rhea limped toward them, her armor cracked, a small grin breaking through her exhaustion. "I don't know how you're still alive, Cole. The whole network collapsed. Drex is gone. You burned him out of existence." Ethan looked up at her, his voice low. "Not gone. I felt him die, but his code, his memory, parts of it still linger. Like ghosts in the machine," Rhea sighed. "Then you better hope they don't wake up again." Ilara looked at Ethan's hand. The white glow had started spreading up his arm again, brighter this time. "It's changing you again," she said softly. "But it feels different." Ethan nodded. "It's not fighting me anymore. I think it's listening." He stood slowly, the ground cracking under his boots as faint light bled from his skin. Rhea stared in awe. "You're connected to the whole system now, aren't you?" "I can feel it," Ethan whispered. "Every signal, every satellite, every circuit in orbit. It's all awake and it's waiting for orders." Ilara's expression softened, but her voice trembled. "Then what will you do?" Ethan looked toward the stars through a gap in the ceiling. "Finish what we started." They returned to orbit aboard Rhea's battered ship. The once mighty Virine fleets floated in chaos, half destroyed, half waiting for new command after Drex's collapse. Across the communication channels, confusion reigned. Without the core, the Council had lost control. But when the ship's systems flickered, Ethan closed his eyes, and every signal fell silent. Across the galaxy, the networks realigned themselves. New light patterns formed across the warship's hulls, soft white instead of blue, Ilara watched in stunned silence. They're responding to you. Ethan opened his eyes. They're responding to peace. He sent one final message, not through words, but through the network itself. Every drone, every satellite, every ship in orbit received it as a pulse of light. And across Vereen, people looked up to the sky and saw the same message glowing across the heavens. The war is over. We are one. But peace, Ethan knew, always came with a cost. Hours later, as the ship drifted above the quiet moon, he stood alone at the viewport. The white light under his skin had spread across his body now, gentle but unstoppable. He could feel his heartbeat slowing, his thoughts blending with the digital hum of the stars. Ilara joined him quietly. You're leaving, aren't you? He didn't answer at first. His gaze stayed fixed on the distant world below, a world that no longer burned. This power, he said finally, it isn't meant for one person. It's too big, too dangerous. The core is still connected to me, and as long as I'm alive, someone could use me to control it again. Ilara's eyes shimmered with tears. Then we'll destroy the core. Ethan shook his head. It's not a machine anymore. It's part of me, and part of every world it touched. If I destroy it, I destroy them too. She reached for his hand, gripping it tightly. Then we'll find another way. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that broke hearts because it carried peace and farewell at once. You already did, Princess. You reminded me that humanity isn't in blood or flesh. It's in choice. She looked away, fighting back the tears. I can't lose you, Ethan. You won't, he said gently. You'll just have to look higher to find me. Rhea entered the room quietly, her usual smirk gone. The ship's systems are syncing with him. If he goes through with this, he'll merge completely. Ilara turned to her, desperate. There must be something. Rhea shook her head. This is his choice. Ethan stepped forward and placed his hand on Ilara's cheek. The white light spread to her skin, warm and soft. Tell your people to build, not conquer. Tell them the human they feared didn't destroy them. He gave them another chance. She nodded, her tears falling freely now. I promise. He smiled, whispered something she'd never forget. She deserves better. Then he stepped back. His body began to dissolve into light, not burning but glowing brighter until he became part of the stars beyond the viewport. His voice echoed one last time, calm and full of hope. Take care of them. All of them. And then he was gone. Weeks later, across the galaxy, strange lights appeared in the night sky. White streams of energy that danced like auroras across alien worlds. The council fell, and a new alliance rose in its place. One built not by fear, but by unity. Princess Ilara became its first leader, carrying Ethan's promise as law. No more experiments, no more weapons, no more walls. Sometimes, when the nights were quiet, she stood on her balcony and looked to the heavens. And somewhere among the stars, a faint pulse of white light answered her, rhythmic, steady, alive. She smiled softly. You kept your word, Captain. The galaxy remembered Ethan Cole, not as a weapon, not as a soldier, but as the human who became light itself, and proved that mercy was the greatest power in the universe.